India's cheetah crisis is deepening. Another cheetah has died at the Kuno National Park, taking the total number of deaths to 9 now. That is a fatality rate of 40%. Out of the 20 cheetahs that were brought to India from Namibia and South Africa, 6 have died so far and only 14 are left. There were a total of 20 that came. 6 of these adult cheetahs have died, 14 are left. And out of the 4 cubs that were born in India, only 1 remains alive. With this, there are only 14 cheetahs left in India. Dharti's death today has sounded alarm bells in the country about India's translocation project that was launched about a year ago on Prime Minister Modi's birthday that falls on 17th of September. But the government is saying the number of cheetah deaths is not alarming. In fact, the government has told the Supreme Court that this was expected. Now, one of the probable reasons for the cheetahs' deaths, as per experts, are radio collars that are being put on their necks. What is a radio collar? Well, a radio collar is a GPS-enabled device that is put on an animal to track their movement. The government has so far refuted all reports of radio collars contributing to the deaths at Kuno National Park. But cheetah experts from Namibia and South Africa are suggesting that while these collars might not be fatal, they can cause infections during monsoons. The injection on the wound may aggravate and then prove fatal for these wildcats, they say. The Cheetah Steering Committee head, Dr. Rajesh Gopal, is also suggesting that the radio collar rubbing on the cheetah's skin can cause a skin infection. This infection is called septicemia and results in blood poisoning by bacteria. Now, the Cheetah Task Force last month had said that the 3-year-old cheetah, Suraj, had died due to this same infection. Although it's a rare disease, its prevalence increases in hot and humid weather. And so on 24th of July, authorities at the Kuno National Park decided to remove these radio collars from 10 cheetahs on grounds of health examination. So that could be one of the reasons. We have 2 top cheetah experts joining us. We'll talk to them more about it. Now, the Cheetah Project is a very prestigious one for India. It was launched with great fanfare about a year ago on Prime Minister Modi's birthday. But the deaths of cheetahs at Kuno have been concerning. They have sounded alarm bells and even prompted India's Supreme Court to step in. The Supreme Court a fortnight ago also sought the centre's response on these deaths, saying, and I quote, 40% cheetahs dying in under 1 year does not paint a good picture. Why can't the cheetahs be shifted elsewhere? The Supreme Court, in fact, even went on to say, don't make this a prestige issue. Rise above petty politics and political concerns and shift these cheetahs to Rajasthan in case that is what is needed. The Supreme Court stinker, the centre responded by simply saying, up to 50% deaths in the first year of translocation is not alarming at all. Former Environment Minister and Congress leader Jairam Ramesh today has slammed the centre, labelling the 50% mortality normal claim as complete nonsense. Is it? We'll, as I said, ask our experts. It's going to be 1 year that the cheetahs were brought to India. After the first 3 cheetahs died, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, or the NTCA, constituted a panel to monitor the cheetah reintroduction program in India. The Cheetah Project Steering Committee has a special panel of international cheetah experts who have now written to the Supreme Court, raising serious concerns over how the project is being managed. The Namibian and South African cheetah experts are saying that they have been in dark about the project's management and had to beg, quote unquote, for any information. They say that these deaths could have been prevented. They say we could have saved the big cats from dying if there was better monitoring and appropriate veterinary care. They are also saying that expert advice has been ignored and foreign panel members are being used as mere, quote-unquote, window dressing. As I said, the Supreme Court has asked the centre to explore shifting these big cats to other locations. To this, the NTCA, that's the National Tiger Conservation Authority, responded in court yesterday, saying that the government has indeed identified potential sites in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. But the catch is, most of these sites will have to be prepared for the cheetah introduction as per the advice of this very steering committee. Let me go across now. Before I go to our guests, in its affidavit, the NTCA is making another very shocking claim. They are saying the cheetah deaths are troubling, but not unduly alarming. They are saying that cheetahs are known to have a low survival rate of 50%. The NTCA, in fact, is adding that in introduced populations, the survival rate of cheetahs is less than 10%. So the situation is really not alarming. The NTCA was filing a joint affidavit along with the Ministry of Environment and Forest over the cheetah deaths at the Kuno National Park that now stands at 9. In its affidavit, the NTCA specifically underlined that the findings of an initial probe, which suggests that the cheetahs died of natural causes and not because of their unsuitability at the Kuno National Park. Vincent van der Merwe is a meta-population manager and he's also a cheetah conservationist. Thank you very much. We have Ravi Chelam, who is a wildlife biologist, who is joining us as well. Vincent, I'm coming to you first. You are part of, a consultative panel that is supposed to advise the government of India and the Kuno National Park on how to manage cheetahs there. The fact is that today, Kuno National Park is seeing a 9th cheetah death. Is it something we should have expected? Is it alarming or not? Because the government of India is telling the Supreme Court of India, it's not alarming. We had expected this to happen.
Yes, the mortalities that we've observed are well within the normal parameters for wild cheetah mortality when you do reintroductions. So this is, we anticipated losses to competing predators, lions, tigers, leopards, striped hyena, sloth bears, wolves. We have not seen these mortalities. We've also not seen snaring mortalities. But what we have seen is a winter coat problem. So African cheetahs develop a winter coat before the onset of winter to deal with the cold temperatures. And now, of course, in India, it's the middle of summer. So what's happened is it's not actually collar-induced. This is just the winter coat, which is becoming infested with parasites, external parasites. The cheetahs roll on it, they scratch against it, and this creates lacerations, which then become infected with a fly strike and myiasis, and then eventually septicemia. So yes, it's an unforeseen situation, but certainly something that has been dealt with by the officials on the ground. Some of the cheetahs are so wild that you cannot actually get close to them to dart and treat them. So yes, it's unfortunate that we've had these mortalities, but we've sent 20, we've still got 14 left, and we're going to soldier on with this project. There's going to be further supplementation, and we sincerely believe that we will win in the end.
Okay, but Vincent, there is a group of experts who've now written to India's Supreme Court, and the papers have mentioned your name as well as a part of that group of foreign experts who are saying that that authorities at the Kuno National Park are simply not consulting with them. If there was better management at the Kuno National Park, maybe we would not see these deaths. My question to you is it necessary that when a cheetah develops a winter coat problem, as you've just mentioned, it is a fatal one, or can it be managed?
No, it certainly can be managed. I think the lesson here is that we need to send more habituated cheetahs to India in future, cheetahs that can be more easily managed, that can be approached to within 20 meters so that we can actually dart them and treat them. So the cheetahs that we originally sent were extremely wild individuals, and no matter how good your management or monitoring is, there's very little that you can do to intervene to fix that problem. Yes, with regards to the consultation, I mean, it's very difficult. There's no cell phone coverage in Kuno, so it's very difficult for the officials on the ground to get that live information out quickly. But yes, I mean, they're doing the best they can. The monitoring, in fact, has been unprecedented. I mean, there's 100 people in Kuno moving around at any point in time monitoring these cheetahs. It's better than anything we've ever seen in Africa. And in fact, the mortalities that we've observed are lower than what we see with reintroductions into unfenced systems in Africa. So with these cheetah reintroductions, you need to be cruel to be kind. You cannot always intervene. The weaker genetics has to be sifted out so that the stronger individuals survive for the sake of cheetah conservation in future going forward. And if we win in India, then this will initiate the recovery of wild cheetah populations across southern Asia where they used to occur.
That will be fantastic. But the NTCA, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, has also said, essentially indicated that things could get worse. In fact, they are talking about possibly a 10% mortality rate, which means out of the 20 that came, we could only see 2 cheetahs surviving. Is that a possible scenario as well, Vincent?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is what we've seen with our cheetah reintroductions into other parts of Africa, into Zambia, into Mozambique. A very small number of individuals survive and reproduce, but those are the fittest individuals. And when they do reproduce, they reproduce very well. A single cheetah mother can raise up to 10 cubs to independence, and those cubs will have her strong, fit genetics. So yes, we anticipate that there will be further mortalities to about 5 by the end of next year. And hopefully by then we'll further supplement. We're going to have to send at least 100, 200 cheetahs to India over the next decade to ensure that this project is successful. And we knew that from the very beginning.
So are you telling me by the end of the year, maybe end of next year, we could only have 5 out of 20 left?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, and this is the process of natural selection at play. And yes, it sounds alarming, but this is the norm for wild cheetah reintroduction.
Okay, Ravi Chelam, you're a wildlife biologist, and you're someone who was opposed to the idea of the cheetah translocation in the first place. Now, what Vincent is telling us is that the number of cheetahs we are seeing dying at the Kuno National Park is not alarming. This is their experience across the world, wherever the translocation program has happened. Are we pressing the panic button too early then, Mr. Chelam?
No, I think we are asking the wrong questions. The question to ask is, does the project really have any chance of establishing wild, free-ranging cheetahs as outlined in the action plan, which in turn is then supposed to save our grasslands and open natural ecosystems? That's really the question to ask. To be able to do that, first the cheetahs need to survive. And here you're having a situation where at close to the end of the first year, not only have cheetahs died, almost every single cheetah is back in captivity. If they're going to be continually kept in captivity, how are they going to be first fit enough to be released in the wild? And then how are you going to monitor them if you're not sure if the radio collars is the best way to go about it? So there's a lot of contradiction. There's a lot of confusion. There is now this morning's newspaper talking of lack of communication, in the dark, and so on and so forth. So to me, we're asking the wrong question. It's not about the deaths. What is this project about? Is it a conservation priority for us? Is it the best way to use scarce conservation resources in India? Those are the questions to ask.
The question you're saying, Mr. Chelam, to ask is, by the end of this project, will it have achieved this aim of having wild, free-ranging cheetahs in India? Right? That's the question you're saying is the question that needs to be asked. So let me put that question to Vincent. Vincent, maybe the question over the deaths of cheetahs is not the right one. The right question, according to Mr. Chelam, is whether by the end of it we'll have wild, free-ranging cheetahs which will be able to survive, not in cages, not in enclosed structures, parks, etc., but be open and wild as well. Will that be possible?
Absolutely, yes. So in South Africa, it took us 26 years to perfect cheetah reintroduction, and in the process, we lost 279 wild cheetahs. We cannot expect India to get this right with just 20 cheetahs. So we went through a lot of growing pains between 1966 and 1996, and eventually we cracked the recipe, and we understood what cheetahs require to survive in the wild protected areas of southern Africa. India will go through the same growing pains, and you will have similar levels of mortality, but eventually you will get it right, and you will restore a historically occurring predator, and hopefully you will pass on this recipe to your neighbors. And we will see the recovery of wild cheetah populations across Asia. So what we are observing are the normal growing pains associated with wild cheetah reintroduction. And the benefits to us of those extreme mortalities that we observed in South Africa when we first reintroduced is that we now have cheetahs back, and we have this growing population. And cheetahs bring tourism benefits, they bring social benefits, they bring environmental benefits, and they act as an umbrella species, not only for the protection of cheetahs in Kuno, but for the protection of all of the biodiversity in the protected areas of India, because they are a charismatic species and they bring high levels of protection and indirectly protect other biodiversity.
Mr. Chellam, 26 years, 279 deaths. India will have to go through the growing pains, as it were, is what Vincent is saying. Are we being too pessimistic too soon then about the cheetah project?
I think this is just a lot of talk. For any wild animal population, especially a low density species like cheetahs, you need thousands of square kilometers of habitats. Where is the habitat? Today, in your report, you're talking of them preparing habitats in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan after the cheetahs have arrived. Kuno was touted as the most suitable. And then 3-4 months ago, the lead scientist goes on record saying Kuno is no longer suitable. So we're contradicting ourselves constantly. We are talking, we're just throwing numbers, we're making all kinds of motherhood statements, while the evidence goes completely against the suitability. And it's really an Africa problem. Is cheetah the conservation priority in India? Or is it Great Indian Bustard? Or is it lions? Why aren't those animals and hundreds of other species, why aren't we focusing on that? When we talk about those species, we say we don't have the money, we don't have the resources. How come essentially what is an African problem become a priority for India? This is completely skewed. This is just playing games. And we are allowing foreign influences to basically shape the national discourse. And that's something that I completely disagree with.
Okay, so Mr. Chellam, can I then quickly ask you where you think, you're saying that we are not being pessimistic too soon, numbers are being thrown at us, this is being projected as something very positive that is taking place when it's not. So let me ask you, what, according to you, have been the big failures of the translocation project then? According to you, the 3 big failures.
The first failure is not implementing the 2013 Supreme Court order to reintroduce lions from Gir within 6 months in letter and spirit to Kuno. It's going to be 10 years since that deadline was set. And lions should have been moved from Gir to Kuno and not African cheetahs. That is the first and foremost. Second, without preparing adequate habitats, we put the cart before the horse by bringing cheetahs, then trying to figure out where can we put them. And now India does not do conservation within fences, and everybody is now pushing for fenced reserves. That goes against the very basis of the culture of conservation in India, where people and wildlife more or less coexist. And these are all foreign elements coming in. Fencing is not cheap, fencing is very expensive, and this very cheetah project has just sucked so much away in terms of attention and financial resources that it's not a joke.
Okay, Mr. Chellam. Very quickly, Vincent, would you want to respond to what Mr. Chellam is saying? Essentially, there have been problems, there have been failures. It's time for us to accept it and move on.
And it'll be very unfortunate if the plug is pulled on this project, because India has an opportunity to take a lead role in the recovery of wild cheetah populations in India, in Asia as a whole, and to derive environmental, social, and economic benefits, as we have seen here in Southern Africa. So the big question is, will the negative media kill this project, Or will the politicians have the political will to huddle together, to grind through the growing pains, and hopefully in future we prevail and recover wild cheetah populations across their historical distribution range in India?
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. Vincent, thank you very much for your time. Ravi Chellam, thank you very much for your time. This has been an interesting chat. We've managed to get both points of view in. Thank you very much indeed.